Trigger warning. Think for yourself. Question authority. Say what you think. Speak the damn truth. Hello, welcome to Your Two Dads. I'm co-host Daryl Platty with my co-host Joe Masano.
Hi.
Today we're going to give you a little intro to our show, what our show is about for any people watching for the first time. Joe, why don't you tell our viewers what kind of inspired us to do our show and kind of the direction that we're trying to go here.
Well, me and Daryl would have these lengthy conversations about things that with our experience with raising kids and things we discovered that we had in common when it came to observing things in the world. We both liked things and didn't like things that we saw growing up. And we really want to make the best future we can for our kids. We want to kind of fine-tune their lives, prepare them to be functional adults.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, along that journey, you start exploring what issues there are out there in the world today. And it's kind of funny. There's so many things we've discovered. You boil it down to the root cause. It's bad parenting, specifically in our case, bad fathering and not being personally involved with your kids' lives.
Yeah, exactly. And so we've covered, and when we first started this channel, we kind of started in that direction, and the next thing you know, we got caught up in this web of identity politics. And, maybe you can blame a lot of that with Trump or Obama or even before Obama, but it just seems like the political atmosphere and the social atmosphere is just very tense right now, and it's very hard to find your way through this and be parents and be able to have conversations with friends and family and even your own children as they get older. I have a daughter in college, and I have a son who is, he's going to be a junior next year in high school. And how do I help my kids transition from being what they are as kids to becoming adults who can think on their own 2 feet and stand for what they believe in and figure out what do they believe in? So the one thing I've always raised my kids is to, question authority, think for yourself. And what I mean by question authority, it's not when you get pulled over, argue with a cop. It's question the authority of your own mind, the own bias of your own beliefs. Question the authority of your college professors in history class or in social studies in high school, whatever it could be. Question these things, not up front, aggressively, but question it when it gets in your head. Because there's things now going on where it's not even education, it's indoctrination.
Yeah, I was going to add, in our day, it was McDonald's and big wheel bikes, and it was the commercialism, of toys to buy that seemed to be the biggest outside influence you had to worry about. But now it kind of looks like kids get indoctrinated and recruited into politics that they can't even vote on yet, or let alone, and it's done without explaining the complexity of the months and months of debates years of debates that led up to why the situation is now. And they're using news or hot button issues, and they're doing it all in this name of your life's in danger, except for examples, the March for Your Lives. If it really was about your life, you would look at it and say, okay, statistically, number one, what's killing people? Number two, what's going on? And it's not done that way at all. It's people much more sinister in thoughts wanting to present a certain political agenda.
Well, it's weaponizing children to promote their political agenda, whether it could be attacks on the Second Amendment, some Marxist doctrine, of gun control and whatnot, increasing the size of government and the expansion of governmental powers. But the thing is if you're not raising your kids, who is? And it's not a teacher's job to do this, and it's not the government's job to do it. So if you're not fortifying your child's mind to be strong, then it will be easily manipulated as they grow. And that's not doing your job as a parent. And, there's a lot of studies out there that show that increasingly since the 1970s, broken homes are out of control. The divorce rate is still hovering around 50%. Um,
How involved our kid? How involved our parents after that divorce?
yeah,
How involved our parents, or fathers particularly? What was it after the first 2 years? Over half of those divorced fathers quit being a daily influence in their kids' lives.
yeah. Well, let's just run through some interesting statistics right here. And I don't want to have the whole show is not going to be about statistics. We want to get more towards um, what do you do as a father? What do you do as a man? And I got some, points I want to throw at the women out there for our women viewers, all two of them. But first, here's some statistics I thought was pretty interesting. And this is from the fatherlessgeneration.wordpress.com. And some of these statistics come from the U.S. Department of Health, the Center for Disease Control, Justice and Behavior, National Principals Association report, and many more. But 63% of youth suicides are from fatherless homes, 5 times the average. 90% of homeless and runaway children are from fatherless homes. And here's where we get kind of interesting here. 85% of all children who show behavior disorders come from fatherless homes, 20 times the average. 80% of rapists with anger problems come from fatherless homes. That's 14% higher above average, 14 times higher than average. And then you look at the benefits of fathers in a home. Here's just a few right here. 75% of adolescent patients in chemical abuse centers come from fatherless homes. So that means if you're a father living with your children, so you have a mother and father together, your child has about a 25% chance that they might have a drug problem, compared to if you're not around, it's a 75% chance they'll have a drug problem. Violence, dropping out of school. There's one here, 71% of high school dropouts is because there's no father in the house. So what do you do as a father to stay around? Well, maybe
I
the
can
question.
start to answer that one.
Okay.
So you take a personal interest in your kids' lives. I mean, you've gone down this road, whether
Mhm.
by choice or accident or whatever. you know, don't. It's not a job. It's kind of like doing something fun in a way. You're with somebody. It's the most rewarding thing you'll have. I don't care if you make a ton of money or close a bunch of deals or enjoy some stupid movie or entertainment. Watching a kid. It was great. My daughter did a poster, and they had to do a superhero, and it's so nice. She just said, "My hero is my dad." Now, you're not going to get that from indulging yourself into your own personal whatever you're following.
Right.
It's much bigger than you. You kind of got to get over that to begin with,
Mhm.
because it's not just a matter of just being there. I've seen so many broken homes and divorces because there was a male present but not involved, just kind of sleepwalking, zombieing through the experience of being with their kids and their spouse. So,
Right.
so that's the first thing is you need to wake up. It means spending a couple hours interacting with them versus being stuck on a little screen or watching TV on the big screen. You got to turn that around to begin with.
Yeah. Well, here's one thing too. No one ever said being a father or being a mother is easy. In fact, it's probably the most difficult job that you could have, because there's really no right way to do it. There's no example of the perfect parent out there. And then you have a lot of sitcom TV shows that's kind of, you know, idolize what it's supposed to be. And trust me, it's much more complicated than that. In every house, you go down your street, and inside those walls of those homes, there's something different going on there than you'll see anywhere else. So every family situation has its own unique characteristics. Everyone is different in some way. But the one thing that is common is that the job of a parent is very difficult. But it's also, and why is it so difficult? Well, because it's so damn important. I don't know about you, but if you have a hard job, It's probably because there's a lot of responsibility there. You know, you look at a doctor, not everybody can be a doctor. It's very complicated. There's a lot of responsibility there. You're dealing with the development of a brain when you have a child. When you have a kid, like that's your kid. That's going to grow up to be an adult who's going to, maybe, if you've done it right, they'll be able to take care of you when you start getting sick and need someone to wipe your ass. You know, you want to end up in a nursing care home because your kids don't give a shit about you because you weren't there to take them to little league practice or to Cub Scouts and do anything with them? Do you want your kids to be just out of jail and free? There's a
Well,
lot of
that's my point. Is I don't want them to be in those situations where I'm still 30 years old. They're 30 years old, and I'm still taking care of them.
exactly like
They self-sufficient
yeah,
adults. I'll do my best to present them the best tools they have, and the set of morals, and to build a better society.
right. So for example, um, I guess me and my wife defied odds. We were married at 19. Our first child was born at 20. My son was born my daughter was born at 20, and my son was born when we were 22. And we've been married now for almost 20 years. And my daughter is in college. She's in a major university. Been through a heartbreak, start up a new relationship, and fallen in love again. Working full time,
Hmm.
straight A student, won the president's certificate, president's award. It's kind of like the dean's award if you're a honor student, but if you're a straight A
Wow.
student, you get the presidential award for it's the campus there, the college. So it can be done. And she's in the belly of the beast, and she's not afraid to speak her mind on issues of, how many genders are there? She believes there's two.
Yeah.
She has a scientific mind, but at the same time, she's not going to be bullied and pushed over by this, you know,
And the
whatever
same
you
thing
want
is,
to call
I
it.
don't see them too as being the type that would bully themselves.
No, but
Yeah.
they're not gonna stand quiet and not speak their mind.
Yeah.
So where does that come from? Well, maybe it comes from a little bit of my influence, or maybe a lot of my influence. But the fact that I was there day in, day out, and the thing with being a parent, you know, you you only have such a short period of time.
I mean, yeah, you're not
Because
kidding
right
on
when
that
even
one.
when they hit about like 14, 15 years old, they're not around the house that often. So you don't have these opportunities to be an influence. So your key window, like you said, your daughter, Madison, how old is she?
She's 6. Yeah.
Okay, so she's 6 and you're still the hero. That
Yeah.
that so that changes, as they get older, because the
Yeah.
unfortunate role of parents is usually
But all that
parents.
all that programming is, I use the word programming, but you know, all those base, do you do this? All those things that they decide to make choices on is actually set very much younger.
Yes.
It starts at basically the day of birth,
Hmm.
and and there's a lot of influence made by the time they're 3 years old. Even
Yeah, and
mostly being present is the big deal. Is knowing that you're keeping their world safe.
right. And there's been studies that I've read when I was going through this adventure of mine being a father that by the time your children are 10 years old, they pretty much are who they are.
Yeah,
So if you, you know, so when I mean like your window is short, it's very short.
yeah.
So, but I like to spin this on our female viewers here because one thing about men will lay down and have sex with anything that says yes. And if
It's
and
biological driven.
right.
I, I,
So
I hate to use the word necessity, but it's how it's perceived. It's how it
yeah.
feels.
Yeah. Well, men are men are men. The whole thing. Oh, men are dogs. Men are pigs. Well, men are wild, sex-craved beasts. And
Look at
so,
the difference between a bull and a cow. I mean, yeah,
right. And so, since you have the invention of the birth control pill, women have a lot of power and control in who they want to have a family with. So, a lot of these choices of bad parents, bad dads, where's these fatherless homes, a lot of this responsibility can't just be blamed on men. Hey, men, get your shit together. Because, like I said, men will have sex with anything and have kids. They don't care. They can leave. It's the job on the mother, on the woman, to pick the guy who's going to be around to support her during
Yeah.
those periods where, because I'm sorry, it's unfortunate, but it's nature. Women can't go out there and work a hard physical demanding job when they're 9 months pregnant or 2 weeks after they've given birth. Somebody has to take care and provide for the mother in that vulnerable period of time, and especially that child in that vulnerable period of time. So you need to find a strong man who's going to get his shit together when he makes that commitment
And
to be a parent.
you don't want to see the statistics of the boyfriend when it comes to abuse.
No, and I don't want to hear this baby daddy anymore. I want to hear my husband and my child's father. That's what I'd like to hear, not baby
Yeah.
daddy. To me, that's just it's ghetto, and it's destroying our society. Culture
Yeah.
is made up of nothing but individuals,
Yeah.
whether it's a town, a village, a city, a state, or a country. And these individuals all started off as baby brains and baby humans. And so it's our job, like one thing I've always said, I'm not raising kids. They are kids. I'm raising future adults who are going to contribute to society. And that comes from having a mother and father in the household. And if two adults can't get their act together for the sake of raising that child that they created, then the world
You're in
is
the
going to
trouble.
end up
What you are is
what
you're in the
what's
trouble
that?
that you're in with all these social ills that we have now.
Exactly. So a lot of these problems, like you were saying, a lot of these problems with today with the March for Our Lives and gun control and violence in schools and dropouts in high school, like
Opiate and heroin.
yeah, the drug problem. I think the college dropout rate is around 50%. I mean, now you have student loans and you don't have no degree to go with it, so that puts a lot of pressure on you as a young adult. A lot
So
of these issues come from lack of parenting in the household. The cool mom and the cool dad thing, that became trendy back in the 80s and 90s. It's like, no, you're not supposed to be. Being cool is not the goal of being a parent. It's a mistake. So, you have anything that you can spin off of that? Are you a
yeah,
cool
yeah. I
dad
mean,
or are you a good dad?
it's kind of like what you said there. It's a hard enough job doing it alone. And there's a strategy problem. There's a who watches your kids when you're not there,
Yep.
who's taking them out to do these things, and as a one person, male or female, I don't know how a single. I give a ton of credit to people who are forced in that situation because it's tough. It's really tough to
Hmm.
make a decision and not plan to be reckless to put yourself in that is really, it's bad when it happens, through accident or death or something, let alone, or the person just really was a psychopath and didn't know it. But that's part of preventing your partners. That helps too, though.
Yeah, and
But
plus,
it also, when you have a parent, the same thing happens with the statistics with kids that are troubled. Is you find a lot of their parents that one of them committed suicide, and it's the abandonment thing.
hmm
When a child is raised with only one parent,
hmm
there's always that: what was wrong with me? Why wasn't I worthy? What was going on? That's going to and hunt it, and you'll see somewhere where the parent turned out to be a total jerk, a total druggie, whatever, and it was actually much better that
Landfill.
life. And then they still seek out. Why do these kids still seek out that parent?
hmm
I know one that shook the infant baby and caused brain bleeding.
hmm
And at that point, good for her. She left him, and it was a physical danger situation. That's one of my that's one of
Sorry
my
for
this
the
is why you
interruptions
leave
there.
situations. But
Yeah.
that kid still, as a 12-year-old, is still seeking out, like, why can't I see my dad?
Right. Yeah.
So that's the thing. You just pick who you do these very important things with a lot better. You
Hmm.
know, vent the guys if it means making the guy wait and make the guy go against his nature. Then that's probably the best way. Not to
Hmm.
condemn anything when it's doing something that's fun or anything, but it's also a good way to test a guy.
Right. Well, the thing is it's also not an excuse either. Like I come from a broken home. My father was very abusive. He was an alcoholic. He beat my mom, and he didn't pay a dime in child support. And he ended up getting a job at Ford. He got his 90 days in, was hired, into the union and everything, and then he quit. And then shortly after that, the marriage fell apart again, went to drinking and went to violence, and you know, he ended up being homeless and spent the last 20 years of his life down in Miami, Florida, living in a tent.
Wow. What was
So
his parents like? If you don't mind me interjecting here, what was?
his parents again were together when he was young, and they were divorced. They got divorced also. So
Uh,
he also came from a broken home. He was in the military, was in the Navy, and was dishonorably discharged. This is my
uh,
father I'm speaking of. So he had issues. The signs were there. Now I can't really say, well, my mom shouldn't have had kids with him because then I'm saying, well, I shouldn't have been here. So things do happen. People do make wrong choices. My mom was 18 or so when she got pregnant with him and had me shortly after she turned 19. So things worked out. It wasn't easy. I grew up in the projects outside of Detroit there and had to overcome a lot of hurdles. I
so you got
had no
economic barriers as well.
a lot of economic barriers. I had no white privilege, so to speak of, unless it meant that I only got my ass kicked every so often. On my
Uh,
way to school or home from school, and had to, cut through the woods that was known as Pervert Park because kids would wind up missing and dead, and that was my shortcut to avoid the bullies to get to and from school. So that
uh,
was a risk I took. So I didn't have it easy growing up, but I never used that as an excuse for anything that held me back.
it's time to. I'm going to overuse the phrase "man up" when
Hmm.
you have something small and little and fragile to take care of.
Hmm.
Problems don't matter anymore.
Right. And
You know.
my wife, same thing, but she had it much worse. She's from Detroit, broken home, both parents, alcoholic, drug addicts, very violent and abusive, and all kinds of things. There's the ACE scale. I don't know if you've heard of the ACE scale, but you can take this test where you answer these questions about your childhood and you get a score of, I think it goes up to 10. Well, her ACE score is a 9, and mine was about a 6. So these
Uh,
are off the charts. If you want to look up this, it's the ACE.
okay.
Um, I can't remember what the acronym stands for off the top of my head. I could do a quick search here, but you can overcome things in life, and you can be a better person. Me and Chrissy call these things cycle breakers. To break the cycle.
I like that a
Okay.
lot. Generational welfare, generational abuse,
Right.
generational drug use, generational kids out of wedlock.
Right.
And I don't mean to sound staunchy conservative, but I mean kids with one parent.
Right. So our show we like to engineer it more towards. We've had a lot of shows in the past where we've gone down the whole political spectrum, and we've even had some shows where we get into healthcare and an objective view on North Korea. We've done a lot of interesting things. We've done shows on Black Lives Matter and the NFL protests, but with the show of Your Two Dads, it's about personal stories of what we've been through, issues we're dealing with currently. Your kids are younger. My kids are, like I said, I got a daughter in college and one about to graduate high school in a couple of years. So it's different, teaching your kids about driving and boys and safe sex and drugs and indoctrination in the school system and how to speak your mind, and so there's a lot of things that we're going to get into in these shows, and we're also trying to give advice to women on what to look for and how to pick that man who's going to be there, to hold your hand when you're dying, hopefully in your late 80s and 90s, surrounded by your large family that you've grown and raised up and
Yeah,
created.
and to give a little preview on that, women hold all the cards. They
Yes.
they are the selectors of that.
Hmm.
If you think you need to be with someone, fix that thought right away, because you can be as selective as you want.
Right. And that goes back to what I said earlier, pretty bluntly, how, men will pretty much have sex with anything. So it's upon the women to pick and choose and pick wisely.
Yeah,
Because don't
it's
go
all
for
there.
this, don't go for the six pack abs. You want to go for the guy with the six pack heart, so to speak. The one that's going to be there. Okay. So that's what we have to say in this week's episode. We'll be around for more. We've had a nice little long break there. But this is a new refocused Your Two Dads.